My name is Natalie Blaze. I am a lifestyle strategist. I used to say I'm a coach, and then people would say, oh, what sport do you play? And really, the radio, if the radio counts, then that's a sport for me. But I found that when I was talking about what I did for a living, people took coaching and looked at it like something to do with sports. And while I do help you create a game plan, I actually help you create a strategy that carries you through and keeps you going. And a lot of times we find that when we hit some of those bumps in the road, especially as entrepreneurs, because we tend to do it by ourselves or with a spouse or a partner, when we hit those bumps in the road, we get really frustrated because we have that friend or that person that says, oh, that's too much work, just give up. Right? Has anybody ever had that conversation with someone who says, oh, that's too much, just go back to working your job, or just go back to doing what it was you were doing? And that's not necessarily what we want to do and the direction that we want to take our lives. And so I talk with my clients about flipping that switch from fear to freedom. And that switch, while it's hard to recognize when we're eyeballs deep in it, the reality is once we learn the tools and techniques to flip that switch, it's so much easier to find the success and the sales and the customers and all of those things that you are looking for and dreaming about. When I first started my journey as an entrepreneur, I thought all I had to do was tell people that I was now an entrepreneur, and people were going to beat down my door looking for my products and wanting to book a party or talk to me about starting their own entrepreneurial journey. And that is typically what a lot of entrepreneurs think. They've got this great idea, and all I have to do is just tell people, and they'll come beating down my door, and I'll have business, and I'll hit 6 figures and 7 figures, and it won't be a struggle. The reality is that the journey to successful entrepreneurialism takes lots of twists and turns. You have to backtrack, you have to change your plan, you have to move around and redesign what you want to do. And often those redirections as an entrepreneur create a lot of fear in us, because we look at it and we say, oh, I've tried that, or someone else tried that, or I saw a story on TV. How many of us go home at the end of the day and go into our homes to our spouses and our roommates and partners and say, oh, I saw a story on TV, or I heard a story on the radio? It's just the typical way that we process what happens to other people, and then we internalize that into our own business and our own struggles. We can always identify with other people around us, and it can be something that can short circuit our journey as an entrepreneur. It's a tough journey, especially if you're a solopreneur. I'm a solopreneur. Is anybody else here doing it on their own? It's just me? Yeah, when you're a solopreneur, who do you talk to when you're having a bad day? You don't want to go home and talk about it to your children, or call up your best friend and talk about how bad it is, because it's going to be a struggle sometimes. We want to be able to have someone that we can bounce those ideas off. And that's why networking groups like this are incredible for growth in your business. You find people who are like-minded, and you find people who are looking for you. I can't tell you the number of events that I've gone to, either as a participant to come and network and meet new people, or as a speaker, where I hear someone else talk, or they hear me talk, and they say, oh my God, I need you, or you need to meet this person. That's where the journey begins, where you start finding that success, is where you find those like-minded people. I found that when I put 3 key things into place, that's where I went from having a really expensive hobby as an entrepreneur to actually having a business and growing it. Anybody else have that experience where you're like, okay, I really want that success, but I don't know what to do. I tried this, I've tried that, or I will find the success that I want if I just do this, if I find the right product, or if I find the right partner. Anybody had that experience from time to time? Yeah? The 3 key things that I put into place, the first thing I did was I took 100% responsibility for success in my business. I decided that if it was going to be viable and if it was going to grow, it was up to me. I had to be the one that did the work. I had to be the one that looked at what was going on in my business and recognize that, you know what, I didn't make those phone calls that I needed to make. I didn't follow up with the people I needed to follow up with. I didn't do my due diligence when it came to something new or shiny or exciting. When I took 100% responsibility, I could then chart and map and process what was going on in my business. Lots of times it's easy to say, oh, well, it's the manufacturer's fault, or it's my staff's fault, or my team member's fault. And the reality is that they are part of that puzzle, but if you are in control and your focus is where it needs to be on your business, which is in revenue producing activities, it's in making those strategic connections, you will find that the success flows much more easily and much faster to you because you're taking responsibility. You know, Jack Canfield says that events are neutral. Whatever's going on is very neutral. It's the emotion that you attach to it that creates your reaction. So if the supplier being short on product is the event that's going on, suppliers are short on product all the time, everywhere, every day, 365. But it's how emotional you get about it that creates your reaction and then peppers over your business. If you're upset that the supplier is short and you start telling your customers that your supplier is short, or you start telling your friends and family and hostesses, or if you're a home-based business, that starts to color how they look at your business. So when you take that responsibility and say, okay, 100% up to me, and I'm the one that's going to make the decisions that grows my business and gets me to where I want to be, that's the first step in starting to create that success plan. The second thing that I did was that I decided that I was working in and on my business at least 5 days a week. Lots of times as entrepreneurs, it's so easy to get up in the morning and stay in your pajamas and watch The View and then catch Maury. I mean, I don't really know what's on TV during the day because I don't get to watch it. But, you know, you get into this habit and you make your coffee and then you get on your computer and you check your Facebook and then you check Twitter and then you check Pinterest, and suddenly there's all these really great recipes about cheese bread, and 4 hours later you're like, oh my God, where has the time gone? So I needed to have a strategic plan every day that got me focusing on those revenue producing activities, and that was touching base with team members, touching base with my suppliers, all of those things that actually brought revenue back into me, making connections with new customers. We can go weeks and months without meeting new customers if we're not focused on that activity. And our business grows when we are expanding who we're networking with and those people that are coming to us for business. 90% of most sales are one-time sales. So if you are in direct sales or network marketing, that kind of thing, if you run a salon, typically people come in once and then they don't come back. It's those 10% of those people that keep generating for you. They book you again, they call you back in again, they re-hire you for whatever it is you're doing. So those folks are where you should be focusing your attention and asking them for referrals. Do you know anyone? Have you heard of anyone? And getting them to help you grow your business. Lots of times if we're in a product-based business, they'll buy from us one time because it's convenient, and then the next time it's just convenient to stop in at the big box store and grab it off the shelf there. I've met lots of gals who are in cosmetics and they have those really great parties and people love it, and then when it's easiest to get your mascara again, where do they go? They go to the drugstore or they go into Walmart and they buy their mascara again. But if you were working on and in your business every day and taking 100% of responsibility for how these customers are going to show up in your business, you get to create that self-sustaining, wild, raving mad customer who is crazy in love with you and what you do. People will buy from us for 3 reasons. They know us, they like us, and they trust us. They buy from Walmart or Shoppers Drug Mart because it's easy. Not because they have anything invested in shopping there, but it's just easy. However, if you create that dynamic with them where they know, like, and trust you, they will come back to you. When they're missing something, they'll call you. When they're booking a wedding, they'll say, oh my gosh, I need the makeup. And they'll call you. My cousin's getting married. Call this company. They have mobile makeup artists that come to you. Rather than sending them off to the local Shoppers Drug Mart and having Auntie Kate do their makeup for their wedding. People are looking for what you have. They want to create those relationships, especially nowadays. They really want that connection. They want to hear from you, and they want to know that you actually care that they are your customer. Because I guarantee you, big box, big money stores, they don't care. There's always someone coming in the door right after you. And so creating that, working on your business plan every day, 5 days a week, even if it's just part-time. I work 10 to 2. I have 3 kids, and they're 12, 14, and 8. They head off to school, and then I get my coffee, I relax a little bit, I do my Facebook surfing and my Pinterest pinning, and then 10 to 2, I focus on my business. And I shut off all of the announcements on my computer, and I put my phone on silent, and I work on my business. And I make those connections, because that's what's growing my business. It has taken me from, just having a few $100s a month to making upwards around $5,000 a month, and higher some months, depending on what's going on. And I know everyone, if you had an extra $500 a month, would that make a difference in your family? An extra $1,000, an extra $5,000? It makes a difference, and it gets you through those steps where you want to go. And the third most critical piece that I had to put into play for my business to grow what I was looking for was to hire a coach. I needed to have someone who would keep me accountable, would kick my ass when I needed it kicked, and said, well, really, I saw you last week, you'd gone to several movies and you were out all the time. Where were you spending the time on your business? And when I got someone who had a different perspective and could reframe it and look at what I was doing from a different point of view, give me those suggestions, help me create a different game plan, then I was doing much better. And when I hired my coach, she was a $6,000 investment for 6 months. What I found was, when I was serious about my business and I was paying attention to what I needed to do, my revenue went from about $1,000 a month to well over $5,000 a month. So if you gave someone $1,000 and they handed you back $4,000, would that be a good investment? Of course it would. So you have to find those connections and those strategies, those accountability buddies, someone who's on the same journey as you, and someone who has a different perspective than you have, to get you to that next level. Anyone who has, a 6-figure, 7-figure, multiple 7-figure business, I guarantee you they've got a coach, they've got a strategist, they've got someone on their team who is looking at the big picture of what's going on and helping them recreate steps that work and get rid of the things that aren't working. And my coach had tough things to say to me sometimes that, I would get off the phone and think, I don't know, do I want to keep going on this journey? But the reality is that she was right, and she knew something that I didn't, and she had bigger steps that could be taken than I could actually see. Because when we're eyeballs deep in the stress and eyeballs deep in what's going on, we can't see the big picture. And so that fear comes from not being able to see the big picture. That fear comes from thinking, oh, I've already tried that, or someone else tried that. And you can flip that switch by stopping for the moment when you're in that fear. Anybody ever been in that downward spiral where you're thinking, oh my God, we're struggling financially in the business. Oh, well, if we're struggling financially, then I can't buy product. Well, if I can't buy product, then I can't have my customers. If I can't have my customers, then my business is going to fail, right? We get into this spiral. We get into this crazy talk that goes on in our head. When I'm talking to couples, it's that argument that we're having with ourselves before we even get home, right? So lots of times for women, we're driving home and the only thing I've asked him to do is wash the dishes. That's all I've asked him to do. And you're driving home and you're thinking, I bet he hasn't washed the dishes. And then you're having this argument, well, I asked you to wash the dishes, why didn't you wash the dishes? Well, I got busy doing this. And you're having this entire monologue going in your brain. And by the time you walk in the door and you get home, you know, the garbage might have been taken out, but the dishes weren't washed. And what are you mad about? That the dishes weren't washed. It doesn't matter that the kids are fed and the house is vacuumed and the dog is groomed, the dishes weren't washed. And it's the same for our business. We create this discussion and this scarcity and this fear that goes on, and we can't seem to flip that switch. And that's where those 3 keys come into place. Taking 100% responsibility, working in and on your business on a consistent basis, and then having a coach or an accountability buddy or someone who keeps you on track. Does anybody here have someone like that, like an accountability buddy who they can call up and say, you know, I'm struggling with this, or I've got this issue going on, and what do you think? Anybody have someone like that? No?
My wife.
Your wife, yes. Wives are fun accountability buddies, right? We don't hand down our advice lightly, do we? Yeah. So you need that person who steps in and helps you figure that out. And when you are eyeballs deep in that fear and you're struggling and you're stressing out and you're throwing your hands up in the air and you think, oh, forget it, I'm tired of this journey, stop and consider, are you responsible for what's going on? Is it really your issue? And if it's not, then you can let it go. And come what may, it's going to work itself out, but you don't need to be responsible for it. And you can then also ask yourself, is there anything that I can do right now in this instant to change what's going on? Can I make a phone call? Can I call in a favor? Can I just sit down and have a cup of coffee and relax? Whatever that is, what is it that you can do right now in this instant that will change what's happening? And when you can get that emotional grip on it, is it my responsibility and is there anything I can do right now to change it? Then you begin to flip that switch. And the last thing you always want to ask yourself is, ultimately, what do I want to happen? What's your next step? We're coming up to the last few days of 2014 and we're getting ready to head into 2015. Do you have a strategic plan for 2015? Do you know what you're doing in the first quarter to build your business, and the second, and the third, and the fourth? If you don't already have an idea right now what you're doing at least 2 quarters into next year, you're setting yourself up for a really hard struggle. Because everyone else is making a plan. They're getting ready, and when you are looking for favors and help and support, they're already in the 3rd quarter of 2015, and you're in the 1st quarter saying, I'm struggling, I need some help. So get that strategy in place, and ultimately, what do you want? Do you want to hit 6 figures in your business by the end of 2015? Do you want to hit 7? Do you want to hit multiple 7 figures? If you're building 7-figure, multiple 7-figure businesses, you should already be past planning 2015, the first 6 months for sure. And if you haven't started that, then talk to me and let's get some ideas set up for you, and let's start creating a strategy and start getting you on that road to success. Because ultimately, the reason why you come to these events is to create that success in your business. You know, you might have been dragged along as a spouse to have a cup of coffee and support, but if you're here and you're wanting to grow your business, get that key into play and get that stuff happening. And if you're looking for a coach, I'm taking clients on for 2015. I do offer a strategy session out of the gate. You know, I give you a 1-hour strategy session. Take a look at what your business is doing. What are you hoping to build? And how can I help you get there? There are so many things that we can do, and entrepreneurialism is where the freedom comes from. So if you want to flip that switch from being an employee where you're not sure what's going on in your industry and how you're going to build it, then entrepreneurialism is where it's going to happen. And that's where groups like this really help you build your business. So thank you very much for letting me come out and chat with you tonight. I do have some sheets over here. I've got my top 10 productivity hacks, how I sort of keep on top of my business, and there's some really great, inexpensive to free resources that you can tap into as an entrepreneur that will help take some of those tasks out of your hand that create that fear. How am I going to brand my business? How am I going to manage my time? Takes those out of your hands and frees you up to do those revenue producing activities. So thank you very much. And does anybody have any questions? Anybody ever experienced something they're like, I don't know how to deal with that? No? You guys are all pretty good?